Welcome, everyone. Good to have you all here with us today. It is Wednesday morning, and I have our fabulous Camilla Tamu. She's our Director of Product Development, and she's joining me today. Hey, Camilla, good morning. And so we are going to be talking about a lot of things related to texting. There are so many things happening in the texting world, and we're going to get some things ironed out and straightened out. And so in the chat, I see already people are joining in and saying hello. So good morning, everyone. If you guys wouldn't mind just telling us what brokerage you're with, how many years you've been in the industry, and let us know if you're currently using, this is a really important one, let us know if you're currently using texting in your business. I'd love to see that. Like, how many of you are currently using it or are considering using it? And when I say, texting, it's either from your own cell phone, right? Or through the Wise Text Services or some other provider, or if you're considering using the text services through Wise Agent. And there's Bobby. He says that he is. Hey, Bobby. I know you and I have been playing phone tag, so good to see you on here. So Camilla, let's jump right in and let's talk about it. First of all, our title, I think, had some crazy acronyms in there. So maybe for everyone to kind of get on the same page as you and I, because we've been dealing with this for a couple of years now. Can you tell everyone what exactly is A2P 10DLC?
Yeah, definitely. So A2P 10DLC stands for application to person, and then the 10DLC is for the 10-digit long code. So application, so Wise Agent is going to be that platform that you're using to text the person, so your clients, using that local 10-digit phone number. So this is a regulation that's being ran by the FCC, all the major mobile network providers, and they're wanting to make sure that businesses and entities are really doing everything by the books as far as identifying who they are and clearly stating what kind of messages they're going to be sending to the consumers of the mobile network carriers like Sprint and Verizon.
Yeah, I know. So what had happened, just to give you guys a little bit of history here. So a few years back, I think it was like 3 years ago, AT&T, T-Mobile, they got together and they said, hey, we're getting a lot of like marketing people texting to our consumers, and this is just an overwhelming, thing that's happening. I think that we need to do something about this, this whole entire process. Then they got together, they formed this group called the TCR, right? The campaign registry. And then other providers, other cell phone providers kind of jumped into that group. And basically they started forming these rules and regulations. Nothing was really concrete until maybe a couple of months ago.
So it was really the FCC and a lot of the telecommunication commission, like the TCPA, the CTIA, they're the ones that were really pushing network carrier providers to do something about it, because they're getting all these complaints of these robocalls or these unsolicited text messages that their consumers are receiving, and they're like, hey, network carrier providers, do something about this. So that's when they really started cracking down and pushing this whole registration for text messaging providers like Wise Agent and those vendors that we use to get you your phone numbers. And that's why this process has started.
Yeah. And really, I can say this when all of this started a few years ago, it really took me back to like, I don't even know what year, 2012 maybe-ish. It really took me back to the Email Can Spam Act and everything that, and the DMARC policies and everything that came with email sending. The major differentiation, because there still is a lot of regulations with emails, right? And I remember years ago, it was like, oh my gosh, everyone was like, well, email is dead because of all these things that they're putting in place. And no, email is not dead. It's still thriving and still, doing really well. But obviously back then when it was like, email is dead, everyone started pushing towards texting, right? And so then now texting, there's been a push has come to shove. And really, it's only happened, I should know, is really only happened here in the US. This is not affecting anyone outside of the US. At this point, it is not affecting Canada, our neighbors to the north, or anyone else. It's not affecting anyone in Europe or any other country. But the email policies did affect everyone around the world. So that was one major distinction. The other major distinction is with emails, you had to you couldn't spoof your email. So I couldn't I couldn't pretend like I was Camilla and sending, on her behalf, or even from a particular server or domain. And that's what,
that's what they're trying to avoid. Really is the same thing with texting. Is you could right now, or previously, anyone could purchase a texting number and just pretend to be someone and text a bunch of people unwanted text messages, and then you're getting complaints. And then now the only way to stop that is by these businesses. And it's not just the real estate industry. I know some of you are probably freaking out or thinking, why is it just real estate? It's everyone. And that's why we're seeing such a backlog with the whole registration process, is because anyone who's in the business industry, like has their own business, whether they own a hair salon or they do e-commerce, they're in retail, whatever it may be, they all have to go through this registration process for their business to really just verify who they are as a business, and then what kind of messages they're going to be sending to US consumers.
Right. And yes, because they do want to ensure that there is, people are not being nefarious and doing anything, like stealing, money from people, social identities, and whatnot. Right. So we want to make sure that that's what really the ultimate goal of all of this is to ensure that everyone is doing things to keep everyone safe and protected, and there's no, there's no fraud going on. And so what they're trying to ensure is that when you're sending a message from a particular number, right now, text numbers, they don't come across with any name. You don't have to state who you are. I don't have to say, hey, this is Eleni with Wise Agent, or this is Eleni with, Eleni's hair salon, or whatever it is. I don't have to state that in a text message, and there is no caller ID that goes along with it. And so they wanted to ensure that there was going to be someone to have on the hook, I guess, if there was going to be something that was going to go wrong, right? Yeah. And, there was maybe some fraud happening. They wanted to see who they have to go after in order to protect their consumers. So that's why all of this is happening. So I think and hopefully you guys are on the same page as us. Please feel free to ask questions. There's the Q&A section, but there's also the chat. So feel free to jump in and kind of say like, hey, can you explain that further? Or yep, we all get it, like carry on. Because I guess Camilla and I mean, we talk about this pretty much every day for at least the last, 6 months to a year, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've been sending text messages and emails, really trying to make sure that we all meet that deadline of August 31st, because there is a deadline here that we want to make sure everyone registers their texting number by. So that's the whole purpose of this webinar, is to educate you on why we're doing this, and that it's not just a made up, law, but this is affecting everyone in the US who has a business or is a sole proprietor. And then also, how do you successfully register your account through Wise Agent, so then you don't have to worry about your texting registration come August 31st.
Right. So. And Cindy, it's not going to be more difficult for those of you that are in California because of privacy policies. It is going to be kind of an equal across the board type of thing. And I say that kind of loosely because there are some stipulations here and there, but not necessarily based on your geographic location. So it is it is really important that we get through this registration process. And like Camilla mentioned, there is a little bit of there's a process, and there's a little bit of a bottleneck happening right now with the TCRs, because they're the ones that ultimately have to approve you all or not, or request more information. So Rose is like, hey, ladies, get to the point. How do we register a number?
Exactly.
So maybe Camilla, you can explain, what does this registration process look like? If you're currently using Wise Texting, the Wise Texting feature, there's some things that you have to do. It's a two-step process. I'm gonna let Camilla explain some of that. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page as this is for people that are using the Wise Text number. If you're using your cell phone, you're going to want to listen to this too, because you're probably going to have your text messages throttled, if not shut down, if you're not doing this as well. So I'll let you take it from here, Camilla, and explain what that registration process is.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just to show you some of the things that you should be keeping an eye out for in your Wise Agent account when you're using the Wise Texting feature. So many of you have seen this red banner in your account about the important update regarding the text registration. If you have not started the registration process, you are going to continue to see this red banner in your account. If you have started the registration process, but let's say part of your registration isn't complete, your banner will be yellow in your account. And then if you do not have this banner, more than likely you have successfully completed that registration process. Now you can always double check that by going to the integrations drop-down menu in your account, going to the settings page, and this is where you would set up Wise Texting, and this is where you would see your registration status. So this is a demo account, so we have some unregistered numbers here for the purpose of a demo. And so you'll see here, we have that these numbers have not been registered. You'll see that red X letting you know that registration is required. And then you'll be able to click on this register button here to begin that registration process. Like we stated, there's two parts to the registration. So that first part is identifying who you are as a business. So if you have an EIN, that means you are a standard brand. So right here it says, do you have a tax ID or EIN? You would need to register as a standard brand. You do not qualify as a sole proprietor. So you'll need to contact our success team to begin that registration process. Now, if you do not have an EIN or a tax identification number, and a way that you can determine those two is, how do you file your taxes? Are you filing your taxes with your social security number? Or are you using another number, a tax ID or an EIN that's not your social security number? If it's not, then you would be that standard brand. If it is, then you are a sole proprietor. And so for this question, do you have a tax ID? You would put no, and then you would go through that registration process as a sole proprietor. And this is all the information that you need for that brand registration piece. Keep in mind, if you are registering as a sole proprietor, you should be using a personal email address that has a public domain. So you should be using a Gmail email, Yahoo, or Outlook, not a company provided email. So, you know, I work for Wise Agent, so I have my Camilla at Wise Agent email, but when I go through this registration process, I'm gonna register as a sole prop, and I'm going to do my @Gmail email because it's not tied in with an EIN. Same with the business address, the home address. You don't want to use your business address or your office address. I know some of us feel like our office is our home, but you really need to make sure you're using that same primary residency address that you use when, again, filing your taxes. If you're that sole proprietor, you're using your home address for that.
And I'm just going to jump in here really quick, Camilla, to explain one thing. So for the sole proprietor, the reason why it is done this way, the reason why they're saying like use an email that is from a public domain such as Gmail or Hotmail or whatnot, as well as your home address, is because what they're saying is that you are not registered as a business. Like you don't have an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp. You don't have that. You are filing taxes under your social security number. And so because of that, you probably have a home business that doesn't have a domain. So they're making these assumptions for us, which it doesn't matter what our opinion is or not, because you can still have a home business and have a website, and you could and have a domain for your email. So I know that doesn't sound like those all line up together, but this is what their requirements are. And I want to let you guys know that these are things that we're pushing through. This is just us saying like, This is what's required for us in order to push through to them. So we are just asking you for the information that's being asked of us about you. So, you know, if you're like, oh, I do have an office and I do have an email address and it's my, you know, whatever, you know, beckysrealty.com or whatever it is, that's okay. You just can't use it here. You just can't use it here. You have to have some other email address. Okay.
Exactly. So then once you submit that information, you're just going to hit next. As a sole proprietor, you do have to do a text verification, and that's going to come from the TCR. So it is going to ask you to confirm your registration for the A2P 10DLC registration process. And once you confirm yes or text back yes to that text message, then you will be taken to your next step for registration, which is your use case, which is what we call the campaign. So step one was that brand registration. And before I move on, I just want to make sure everyone clearly understands what you need to put for your brand. If you're a standard brand, you have an EIN, a tax ID, you'll have to contact our support. They'll have to process your registration, and we're going to collect information regarding your brand in order to process that with the TCR.
Yeah. So Cindy's saying this sounds really complicated. Who can we call? You could definitely just call our support. So if you're unsure of how one thing I would say, like which way you will register, because the first part, there's a differentiation. If you have like an EIN number of a registered business with your Secretary of State, or if you are a sole proprietor and you are just simply filing your taxes under your Social Security number. So the best way of figuring out that portion of it is either look at your taxes from the previous year and see how you filed. That would be your best bet. If you have an EIN number registered with the Secretary of State, then you do have to contact us. And that's the part that we're not going to show you that part. That's something that you would call our support team. We will walk you through that because there's a few things that we need to know. And so that would be something that, that we would walk you through. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then both parts, no matter which one you are, if you have that EIN or not, everyone has to register their campaign. And the campaign, what the TCR is referring to as the campaign is basically saying they want a summary. They want to have an understanding of what type of messages you are sending out to your clients, right? To your and mind you, I said the word clients, right? So we want to make sure that we're sending out messages to our clients, to people that we know, and that those are going to be, they also want to ensure that when you're sending something out to a client, that the client realizes has opted in to receive your text messages. So there's some things that we've been doing on the back end for you to help you with that whole opt-in portion of it, as well as the opt-outs, right? So those kind of like unsubscribes, like we have that's more of an email term. In the texting world, it's more of like the stop. So if somebody sends a message saying stop, it doesn't matter if it's all lowercase or what the case is, they will just be unsubscribed from your texting.
Exactly. Yeah. And there are some best practices that our team will help you, through that registration process. I know a lot of you are saying, you're a little over, maybe it seems complicated, but we are going to walk you through it. We're going to give you those best practices. And like Eleni mentioned, we want to make sure that that consent is explicitly stated on your website, where there's a checkbox and that it shows that by submitting your information here, that you are, consenting to receiving text messages from, this entity, this person, which is going to be the registrant. So who you are, basically.
Yeah. I was just going to say, there's a couple of things here in there's a lot of comments happening, a lot of questions. I want to go through some of these. Okay. So Linda, you're saying that you no longer have a red message. It's now a yellow message. So the yellow message is that your brand, your registration portion of who you are, who your company is, was accepted, which is fantastic. So step one for you is you're good. So any of you that have that yellow message saying that, you know, your brand registration has been accepted, but your campaign has been rejected by the TCR and you need to resubmit, that means that step 2 for you was rejected and you need to resubmit. If you click on where it says, please click here, then that will give you the failure reason. But you should just definitely call our support staff. And I think we posted those number. Yep. 480-836-0345. Contact us there and we're going to help you get you through, through the campaign. There's some things that we have to check. Again, you know what I said earlier, maybe I said it kind of in passing. So this has been going on for like 2-3 years. But really the all of the rules that have been set in stone as of like June or end of May. So there were things and even since then it's been interesting how they're doing things. We're just gonna push through and do the best that we all can. But we have zero control over this. We have to just do what we are being told to do. And we're doing that as we're getting new information and new information is coming to light, then we are making sure that we're helping you all. And that's why we're doing this webinar today to help you all get registered, because we do want you to be marketing your clients using the texting feature, because it is a powerful tool. I mean, I've been on these webinars saying that for how many years now, saying that texting works, and it still does, even with all of this registration complication in here. Okay. So, and then just to take note of my friend here, Greg Hanner. Yes. So if you have your WiseText registration is checked, your second registration worked. If you have that green check mark, you're good to go. You should be, your campaign should have been vetted and well passed. So you should be good. I know, Camilla, there's some people here mentioning some fees. Let's address that, because I know that's going to be on people's minds too. There are some fees that are being passed through to you all. They're being passed to us. So it's just, this money does not go to Wise Agent. That money, those fees, those pass-through fees go back to the TCR, which then those funds get allocated to AT&T, T-Mobile,
exactly,
and all the carriers.
Yeah. And like we mentioned in the beginning, a lot of the FCC, these regulators, these laws that have passed are now imposing a lot of fees on the mobile network carriers. And then that needs to be passed through to someone, so then they can collect back. So that's basically what's happening here, is that we are, you know, the money that we collect for your registration is not, you know, staying with Wise Agent. That's going straight to the TCR, which then gets passed through to the mobile network operators like Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T. So yes, you are going to see that registration, depending if you're a sole proprietor or standard brand, there's a fee that you have to pay for your registration. And then if your campaign does fail, there is a resubmission fee. And that's why it's really important that, you know, you read any of those knowledge-based articles that our team has created that goes over what you need to know about your registration process. And then you follow those best practices that if you call and speak to one of our team members, their success team, they're going to give you all the things, important details and things that you need to know to successfully register for your texting number. So definitely, if you haven't done that yet, call into our team. Some of you might see a blank failure reason, and that's going to be because either there's not enough information that was provided during your registration, so that you'll need to contact our support. That way we can give you a more defined reason depending on what the TCR says, because we can reach out to, you know, our vendor and get that information for you, and then help you with the resubmission.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of work that's being put into place from our team in order to get a lot of these things kind of pushed through. We're trying to do our best to put some things in place where you don't have to worry about what you're going to put in these message boxes that are asking like your campaign. One of the things being the word leads. That word leads should not be put in that you're going to be contacting leads. They don't like that word. I've never liked that word. I've always been trying to say the word prospect, and maybe they tuned into one of my webinars. I'm not sure, but that word prospect is okay. Saying that you're going to be reaching out to prospective clients or current clients or past clients, that is totally fine to say. What they don't want to see is that you're going to be texting people that you do not know. That is the thing that we want to avoid. And that's what we need to convey, that you're not just texting random people. You just didn't, pull a number out of a hat saying, I'm going to just text these random people, that these are people that you know, or are getting to know. Okay. Exactly. So David is saying, this sounds like a money grab. David, you said it, not me. So there you go. But yeah, it's a process, and it's something that we're trying to help you guys overcome some of these things, so we can both kind of carry on and continue doing all of these texting, all the great marketing that can go along with the texting. I mean, we use that for ourselves internally. Yeah. Right. So to you all, we text you all. So so we want you to continue doing that.
And so one of the questions,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the questions I saw from Cindy is, what if we don't have a texting number currently, and we don't have one until after August 31st, which is a great question. So if you're not currently using texting, and you want to set it up in the future, you can definitely do that. Because the registration process is going to be available after. It's just existing numbers that are using texting. They need to make sure they register so they're not experiencing that filtering, because that's what's going to happen is if you don't register your business and your use case, your text messages that are being sent to these consumers. So if I have AT&T or T-Mobile, I'm probably not going to get your text message if you're an unregistered business, because my mobile carrier provider is filtering your messages because you haven't registered. So it's important to just note that anywhere you go, when you're using a texting provider, when you're using mass text messaging, which is the only way to really manage your texting when you're operating a business, is using a messaging provider like Wise Agent, is to make sure that you register your number, and that you clearly identify who you are and what text messages you'll be sending.
Yeah. And Alejandra had a great question here. So what if in 2023, my taxes are going to be filed with an EIN number and not my social security number, and I'm already registered? Should I just leave it as is? Absolutely, yes, leave it as is. So I should kind of clarify that, is that so if you have any EIN number, and this, again, this is not being imposed by Wise Agent. Even if you're running real estate and your EIN number is for some other business, you need to, you have a crafting business or whatever, so some other type of business, and you have an EIN number with that business, you have to register it with that EIN number that you have. I don't have much more to say other than that's just what's being imposed. But yeah, so that does need to happen. And so that is something that if your brand did fail, because you tried signing up as a sole proprietor and it failed, it's most likely is because you probably have an EIN number for some other business, and that's what they're looking for from you. Okay. Yeah. So Camilla, can we talk a little bit about the fees? I know we started to, and then we kind of got sidetracked here with some of these questions. So can we talk about what some of these fees are, kind of generally speaking? I know you said that there is going to be a there's going to be a, if you have to retry, resubmission fee.
Yeah. So for EIN registration, so standard brands, it is $60 for registration. That's across the board. And then for the sole proprietors, it's $20 registration. Typically, we say this is a one-time fee. However, if let's say for whatever reason your registration fails, there's going to be another fee in order to resubmit your campaign. And that's, again, pass-through fees to the TCR, which then passes it to the mobile network carriers, in order to ensure that the people that are messaging their consumers are legit organizations and businesses. So those are the fees associated with the registration portion of the A2P 10DLC regulations.
And so I see a couple of questions here. Jessica, you're saying that you don't have the red message on your account anymore. Does that mean you're okay? More than likely, but I would say contact our support to ensure that that is the case. You could also go to the integration settings page and ensure that you have like a green check mark there, that everything is okay, and you should be good to go. So if you guys don't see a red box or that yellow box and you're using our texting feature, then you should be good. And if you want to drop off of this webinar and you're like, "Ooh, this is information overload," that's all right. We're not going to get our feelings hurt. But if you have that red box or that yellow box on your Wise Agent account, or you're thinking about getting that, as I know a couple of you had stated in here, then just hang tight and we're going to explain further here. But if you have that red box, I would say contact our support staff. That will be the best way of going forward with that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know there was another question in here. Goodness, there's a lot of them happening here. I've registered my texting number with Wise Agent. Will I need to register my cell phone number with T-Mobile to send text from my phone?
No. So you're basically, when you go to T-Mobile shop or Verizon and you go to buy a phone, or you start your phone line, that's you registering for your services through that mobile network carrier. This is specifically for using an application such as Wise Agent to send text messages to, a person, your clients, your prospects. Maybe we can say application to prospect. That's what A2P stands for. You're using your application to text your prospects. And in order to do that in an efficient way, you're always going to use some kind of messaging service provider. And the messaging service provider has to make sure you're registered. That's something that's a regulation. And so we have to register you and your business and your use case through the TCR. Once that's approved, then you're able to send text messages through Wise Agent's application to your prospects and to your existing clients. So then you can, text them, happy birthday message, wedding anniversary. You can invite them to an open house because you know that they're looking in that area. You can use texting for many different reasons, not only mass texting, but transactional text messages. We just came out with the triggers. And if you want to send a text message to your client, as a reminder that that the lockbox is being installed or whatever it may be, you're able to use texting for that purpose. So this is not related to your personal number. It's only related to using applications to send text messages, whether it's transactional or promotional, to your clients.
And then to clarify for a couple of you, so the $60 is for the standard brand is a one-time registration fee. There is that one-time registration fee. There are other fees in there that are being talked about, that are going to be pushed through. I think that what they're waiting for is this August 31st, and then there's going to be some more things, and we're working on getting all of that situated for you guys, and we'll have more information in the future for if there's going to be any additional cost pushed through as well. So a couple of you are noticing that you have a pending approval note. How long do you have to wait to see if everything is okay? That's a great question, and something that we have very little insight to. We did just receive something the other day saying that it could take, more than, 7 business days. So we're just kind of telling you, hang tight. From now until the 31st, you still have the ability to text. I would say that if you are not approved by the 31st, I would even say by the 30th, is start looking if you have any drip campaigns that have texting in there, because those text messages will not go out. They will not allow those to be sent. So you want to make sure that look through your messages and see, like, is it saying something in there? And most likely not. I mean, most likely we're not telling you, like, I know our campaigns don't say something like, hey, in my next email, I'm going to be talking about this, and then referring to that from that email to that previous text. You just want to make sure that things are kind of cleaned up, and that if that text message doesn't go out, your messages are still going to be okay. Or at least that you have an alternate email campaign on there to get your messaging out. So I would just give you guys a heads up on that, is look at your drip campaigns, look at anything that you have scheduled to go out. Yeah, so there's a lot of questions in here. Goodness.
Yeah.
Deborah's asking, I own a brokerage and I have a real estate company through the state, but I file taxes under my social security number. So which way do I file, as sole proprietor or standard brand?
If you have an EIN and it's tied into any of your information, then your registration would fail through the TCR. So
if it was a social security number of a sole proprietor, it would fail.
If they register as a sole proprietor, but they have an EIN, it would fail.
Yeah.
So I recommend making sure that if you do have an EIN, then you do the standard brand registration. And our team is here to walk you through that process. If you don't have an EIN, then yes, you qualify as a sole proprietor, and your likelihood of being approved goes up when you register the correct information.
And I know there's some things that some best practices that they should follow for their campaign, for registering their campaign, Camilla. I know we've done some work on our end to ensure that there's some of those things are kind of automatically done for them. Can we talk about some of those best practices for their campaign registration?
Definitely. So, I mean, some of the things that we recommend our members to do is definitely making sure that they have that consent checkbox on their website, which is something that we're adding to all of our landing pages. That language was already there. The consent language was already there, but now we're adding this checkbox here where the consumer or that prospect that is inquiring about your business has to check this box off before submitting their information and linking it to the different privacy policies, to ensure that they are aware of it before they give you your information. That's one of the guidelines that the TCR has given us, is that there needs to be that checkbox with clear consent that you will be texting these prospects or these clients that are, and I'm being very careful with the term I use because they're very picky about it, but so you receive this consent from them in order to send them text communications and email communications through your application that you're using. Something else is making sure that in your use case, so for sole proprietors, when you go through the registration process, I know I said it's two parts where, first you register your business identity, so who you are. And same thing for standard brand, you have to register who you are, your business identity. There's that second part though, which is going to be your use case. And so with that use case, you want to make sure that you give a clear campaign description. So your campaign description is going to be, why are you texting your clients? What is the purpose of the texting? And for that, you're going to put something that's clear of like, I want to be able to stay in communication with my clients, to let them know about my services, but to also send them, a happy birthday greeting or an anniversary greeting. And then you have to also include your sample messages, and your sample messages should align with your campaign description. If you're saying that you're sending, text messages to stay in touch with your clients about, happy birthday or happy anniversary, and there's not a sample message that aligns with that, your campaign's going to fail. If you're saying that you're going to send text messages to prospects that have inquired about, a listing, then you should put in there something that aligns with that. And you need to make sure that your sample messages also include opt-out language, which we provide that for you. So that's something that is included in all the text messages that you send through Wise Agent.
Yeah. So it's not okay for your campaign registration portion for the use case to just say real estate. Don't just put real estate in there. You have to elaborate. They really want to understand what it is that you're going to be sending out. Right. And I see, Greg, you're saying like, hey, so is there a way to see what I already entered? Because I can't remember. Look, if you say that I am going to be sending this out because this is what you do, this is how you use your marketing. right? So if you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm going to be sending this out to communicate any new opportunities for, for my clients to purchase a property or whatever it is, that's what you're doing, right? And that's what most of you all are doing, right? You want to send them opportunities of things that they can purchase, properties they can purchase. I want to invite them to open houses. I want to make them aware of what is happening in the real estate market in our area, right? Then you need to convey that. So we can't tell you exactly what to say because we don't know each and every one of you individually. I know some of you, my friend Bobby that's on here, I know Bobby, he uses it for inviting his clients, people that he knows, his clients, to real estate seminars. So if that's what you're using it for, that is perfectly legitimate and that is okay to state, but you have to make sure that that's what your message, that's what you're doing. Because after all, they are going to have access to your messages and they want to ensure that you're doing that. Because we too can see what you're sending. And I know some of you, and I'm not saying that some of you that are on here are doing this, but there are some people that are like, hey, do you want a list of foreclosures? Do you want a list of this? Do you want a list of that? And you're just sending, random things that are, when you're
would be flagged,
that are going to get flagged. Like when you're asking, do you want a list of something, that's going to get flagged. When you're sending, we've had a couple of people, a very small amount of people that have said, hey, send me some gift cards and I'll send you gift cards if you send me cash. Obviously that is going to get you shut down and you're going to get probably a phone call from me. So that is not something that you want to have done. So we want to just make sure that we are sending out what you're sending out is going to be what you are actually doing. So I don't want, I know Bobby is sending things out about seminars. If you're not running seminars, then don't state that you're going to be doing seminars.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And yes, Bobby, I do know that what you do is super important. So, and what all it is that they want to be insured, and they being the TCR wants to be ensured that what you're going to be sending is going to align with a legitimate business that you are registering. And it's not going to be something that is going to be phishing for, or spamming or scamming people.
Exactly.
That's the summary of all of this is that.
And I did just put a quick screenshot in there for what we're looking for messaging details. So that campaign description. So what are you using the texting for? And then how do your contacts consent to receive your messages? And I think I saw Rick ask, what websites apply to this? And so basically, are you acquiring consent through a website? So if you are, then you need to make sure you have that checkbox on your website with that consent lingo there. So that language of, by checking off this box, obviously we know if somebody's filling out a form, they're looking for you to reach out to them, but the TCR wants something there just to show that, okay, they are acknowledging, they know what they're doing. Same thing with the cookie banners that showed up a couple years ago where you just have to click accept cookies. This is almost like the same thing with that checkbox on your web form on your website.
I would also say another tip would be if you guys are using, the sign writers. So if you're using a sign writer saying, text whatever, this number, text 1234 to this phone number, and that will get you on my newsletter, on my texting newsletter thing or my texting campaign or whatever it is, that is totally acceptable as well. You just have to be explicit in saying that in your campaign registry, that you have a sign writer that's inviting people to text you to opt into your text messages. And that's perfectly okay to do. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So where did you put the info for the screenshot? I don't see it in the chat or the Q&A. So maybe
it's a little bit further up.
Can you share your screen with that screenshot, Camilla, so people can see? And while she's doing that, I know that these, some of these sample messages that you're going to be sending are going to be here. So it's going to look exactly like this, like, hi, first name. Here's a property that you might be interested in seeing. And here, and you can include the property address or whatever it is. So here's some of these examples. This would be something that you want to be and they ask for 3, because you could have, so one of them can be, I want to send you about your birthdays. I want to send you a reminder about this. I want to send you the property matches or the seminars or whatever it is. You should have those 3 examples in there.
Yeah. And then of course the consent, if you're again using your website or web form, or if you're doing the text consent, which Eleni gave a great example with the sign writers, if they're texting a phone number to then opt in, that works perfectly fine as well. And we take care of all of that verbiage as far as like opt-outs go. But I also encourage you just to include that in your message sample so they see it there, but we take care of that on all the messages that you send out. That first message has your signature and that opt-out language on there as well.
Yeah. And so oh, sorry, Camilla, can I have you share your screen one more second?
Oh, yes.
I'm just gonna point out one thing. So if you have this sign writer that says like text start to whatever 5551212, then you would just check mark that first box. If you're using the web form and you put in your, elenisbrokerage.com, whatever your name at realty.com, you have to make sure that form, right? And it could be /contact /whatever, right? That form has to have a check mark next to it, just like this little checkbox here with the submit and with that disclosure. If it doesn't have that, then I would highly recommend you not put in your web address, your website, that you use one of our landing pages to do that. And then if your website, you don't have a privacy policy, that you use the privacy policy from our landing pages. Okay, it's really important that you have this information. Now, you don't have to have, I don't think you have to do all of these.
No,
so like where it says client provides consent through a mobile app, if you're not buying, leads from one of the portals, like here, the example is from Zillow, then you don't have to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah. And I know there's a subscription for you to use Zillow, but really you're promoting your listings on there, and then people are actually inquiring on those listings, because we want to make sure you're not putting anywhere on this form that you are purchasing leads from a website at all. Like, I want to make sure that that doesn't go on the form, or you submit any of that information, and that you state that you're clearly getting consent from these people when you're texting them, just to keep that in mind.
I don't know, gosh, I lost track of all of the chats here. I know a couple of questions. Did you have something that you wanted to go through, Camilla?
Well, I just saw Linda's question. I think Sarah got to it here, but that we keep mentioning clients, and that there are people that we've already established a relationship with, including past sales. So wouldn't this apply to agents communicating with the only consumers leads we haven't done business with currently / previously? The TCR, these mobile network providers, want to make sure that the people that you're texting are clients, consumers, prospects. We're using those terms because leads is a flag for them. We understand that leads is interchangeable with prospects, or can be interchangeable, but because we want to make sure we're being compliant and we're aligning with these regulations, we want to make sure that we're using the correct terminology, and we're also passing that through to our members to make sure that they have a higher success with registration that way as well.
Yeah. And then a couple of questions from some of the people that have registered for this webinar is, how do we know our client will never get another text if they've opted out? That's a great question. So we have that already built into our platform, so you don't have to worry about that. If they type in the word stop, then they will, be unsubscribed from that. That's something that we, in your initial contact through text messages to your clients, there's a message that gets added, a little blurb that gets added, like, please, send stop to unsubscribe from these messages. And so that gets sent out. And so we adhere to that policy, and we will make sure that they don't get texted after they've sent that. So that's something that we do for you.
Yes.
Go Go ahead.
We do offer, reporting tools for your texting, so that way you can actually see the replies that you're receiving. So you'll be able to see if you could see those people who are replying back. Stop to your messages. We add them to a category. So not only do we stop it on the back end where you won't be able to text them, but we also add them to a category so you can easily identify, okay, these people don't want to be communicated through via text. And then, you can kind of go from there. But utilizing those tools that we give you so you can easily identify who is wanting to receive your text messages too, and also making sure you're segmenting your audience when you're sending a text message to your clients or these prospective clients that you have in your database.
Yeah. Another question is, can we blind text, or do we have to have permission or an existing relationship? Yes, you have to have permission, or you have to have an existing relationship. You cannot just, randomly text people that you don't know and they don't know you. That will get you in trouble. We will prevent you from sending out messages, just like we would do if you did that through email. So you want to make sure that you're sending out messages to people that have requested this, requested to be put on your campaigns. That's why we have all these landing pages, and we encourage you to use those, and encourage you to use those most especially right now in the next 7, 8 days that we have left in this period before they start enforcing the registration. So I would highly recommend you doing that. Someone's asking, is this similar to the do not call list? It is. Yeah. So the stop is similar to the do not call list. When somebody says, do not, if someone, says that when you're on the phone with them and they say, I'm on the do not call registry list, stop calling, you have to adhere by that, what they've said. Just the same way we have to adhere if somebody replies with a stop message on text, or if they click on the unsubscribe in the bottom of your emails, we have to adhere by that. And we do. Okay.
Yeah.
So a good tip from our friend here, Greg, saying if someone texts stop, I often remove them from Wise Agent using the delete function. I've seen a few times where that deleted prospect makes another inquiry, and sometimes I can't see them in Wise Agent. Is there a hidden delete field that is helping stop that new inquiry from firing a message off by a rule? So if you remove them from stop, they would not be able to get turned back on unless they type in start. So that really, that's a good question, Greg, and I'm gonna have to talk to my developers and see how we can do that. I think I have a quick solution for it in my head. Now it's just time to put that into place, but I'll talk to the developers about that one. But that's a good question there. All right. Do we have any other questions? Camilla, is there anything else that you wanted to go over? Gosh, we've been talking this whole time. I feel like all this legal stuff.
I know we ran through a lot of information, and I just hope that we were able to give everyone all the important details of what they need to know regarding the registration process, and that our team is here to help guide them through it. It seems like a lot when you're learning all these new acronyms, the FCC, the TCR, the TCPA, whatever it may be. There's a lot of different players involved. But as your CRM, as the application you have chosen to use to send text messages for your business, we're here to guide you along the way, and just give you all those best practices and what you need to successfully register your texting number.
Yeah. And so a couple of things I wanted to go over, that someone's asking for a 30-second synopsis of this new process. So David, here's the deal. What you want to do is, if you're currently using Wise Agent or you're thinking about doing it, you have to register with us. So you have two ways. There's two different options. It's one of two options for you to register your entity yourself. And it could be either, if you have an EIN number, you have to contact our support staff and we will walk you through that process. If you do not have an EIN number to register, then you will register through the application through Wise Agent directly by going to our integration settings page and then going down to the Wise Text and clicking on the register part. Okay. And then once that has been, once you start that process as a sole proprietor, as a standard brand, either way, you have to then register your campaign or your use case. And that's all done at the same time. Okay. I just want you guys to understand it's all done at the same time. And when you do that, that second part is where you're going to be giving examples of what your messages you're going to be sending out to your prospects and to your prospective clients, your consumers. And then that gets submitted, and then you hang tight for a hot minute until they come back, and they, being the TCR, comes back saying, you know, if you've been approved, or if we need to resubmit anything for you. Okay. So that's kind of like that's the shortest synopsis I can come up with. I don't know if that was 30 seconds, but that's it. That's all of that in a gist there. I do want to say one thing is that there might be some of you that are like, gosh, I work for, I'm an agent and I hang my license with, you know, one of the big brands. So I don't have their EIN number, or, you know, what do I do in that case? So, and I don't have a Gmail, or I don't have, you know, you really, or if you're a brokerage, right, and you have that EIN number, you can register for all of your agents and their numbers. So you can call us if you have any of those questions, or if you're like, I have no idea what you ladies are talking about and I just need to talk to somebody on the phone, just call us. Our staff is well equipped and they are well versed in all of this, and we will, you know, gladly take you through the whole entire process of ensuring that everything goes through. Okay. So that is okay. So Joey's asking, or Joy, sorry, what if you already paid $20 and it's supposed to be $60?
So if you haven't started the registration process, Joy, so if you just paid that fee, because I know for some of you, you may have selected the wrong thing and you paid the fee, but haven't started the registration process, we can offset that balance. Now, if you have already started that registration process, for you, Joy, you would need to contact our support, because your registration is going to be a little bit different just because you started that process already, and they'll have to go over you know, what fees will need to be paid in order to switch you over for the standard brand.
Yeah. And then go ahead, Camilla. Are you going to answer?
Well, I was actually going to say, because I saw Linda asking about the $15. The $15 is not necessary if you've already registered for your account successfully. There's no additional fee after that for registration. The $15 is only if your campaign failed the first time. That's what that additional $15 would be, is for that resubmission, which is from the TCR, which is the campaign registry. David, I did put in our success channel for a team member to give you a call, because I know you have a lot of questions and I want to make sure you get those questions answered and a successful walk through the registration process. But the TCR is basically the organization that was put together by the mobile network carriers and the FCC and the other telecommunication, you know, commissions to do the registration process and make sure everyone is in compliance with their regulations.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of people that are a bunch of entities like AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. They are participating in this campaign registry. So if you go to campaignregistry.com, you could read all about it. Is some fascinating things that are happening in there. So that is a very informative site for you.
And for Carl, I know this question came in, and so when it comes to cross-registering with different platforms, the TCR has made it where you have to register with each application that you're using. So if you register with Wise Agent and then another texting provider, you have to register with both.
Yeah. They just want to ensure that because basically what's happening is you're being assigned a mask number, and they want to make sure that that mask number is assigned to some business or some person, and they want to know who that person is to ensure that everything's all on the up and up. Okay. Anything else that we
A
need to
lot.
go through? I know we said, I'm like, I think we could do this in an hour, if we talk fast enough. And so
Yeah.
I'm a fast talker. So we did it. I hope that we've cleared things up for you all. Again, we are here for you. If you have any further questions, please let us know. Please contact our support. They are very knowledgeable in this. They have all of this information that we've shared with you. I know this recording, even if you didn't make it onto the webinar itself, this recording will be available to you in your inbox shortly. It's also we went live on our Facebook community, our Wise Agent community on Facebook. If you guys want to go there and watch the replay in there as well, please feel free to do that. Feel free to share this with, other people. I know the industry in general is not very well versed in this. So if some of you might be sitting there like, how come I haven't heard of this until Wise Agent started bombarding me with these emails and these texts? It's because I don't know. I don't know why it's not very well known. I know that I know a lot of people in the industry, and when I've told them about it just recently, they were like, what's this? So please inform people. Please let them know that we can help. So if they need our services, we can help them as well. Okay. All right, Camilla, thank you. We're fabulous as ever. And thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to be back on the 31st. I'm not sure what day of the week that is, with one of my good friends, Nakia Brooks, with Heartland Realty out of Georgia. He and I are going to be talking about his 60-day challenge. If you guys know who Nakia Brooks is, you probably have seen his Facebook posts and his videos about the 60-day challenge that he's running. Or if you guys want to follow him or friend request him on Facebook, you can do so. Let him know I sent you over there. We're going to be talking all things CRM and this challenge that he has going for his realtor friends. So I'm excited for that one. All right, guys. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.